Hello. There is a lovely quote by John Maxwell that I want to share with you. It is change is inevitable. Transformation is optional. And I love that because throughout my life, I have resisted change. Oh my gosh, who hasn't, right? And I realized that the more I resisted it, the bigger and the louder my lessons got. Hello, I am Karen Seltz. Welcome to Irresistible You, Ignite Your Passion and Purpose. I want to talk about transformation, about what is possible when we are willing to step into the unknown, when we're willing to ask questions and not just take things at face value. When we're presented with these difficult people in our lives or difficult situations, how long do we run and retreat? How long? And I'm going to share some things over the course of my life that have been really pivotal moments that have gotten me to the place I am today, which is certainly not perfect. What I will say is I have tools that, like, one of my rackets is thinking that I'm right about things or right about my judgments. And I have tools now. I have friends that I call and like, oh my gosh, I'm convinced that I'm right about this and that this person did this to me. And they're like, uh-huh, Karen. Um, but they call me forward. And for me, that is the most loving, most supportive friendship I could ever have, is not somebody who's going to co-sign my bullshit, ego-driven stories, but someone who's actually going to see me in capital T truth. And to know that if I think I'm right, that makes somebody else wrong, which is absolutely impossible. Yes, I know that in my head. Doesn't mean I won't fight for it. Who's with me? Anybody else have that one where you like have to be right? I'm like, oh, it's annoying, but now it's kind of funny for me. So, along the course of my journey, there were lots of pivotal moments where I got to make a choice. Do I hide? Do I pull back and stay the same? Or like pull the covers over my head and, hope the storm goes away and then pretend like nothing happened? Do I act like a jerk and then pretend like nothing happened? Yeah, I did that a lot, a lot. And it leads to a lot of unrest in the body, in the mind. And it's like all these open programs. Remember those old computers? If you had a lot of programs open, they would get really, really slow. Well, it's like that too. If you have a lot of unresolved issues or conflicts going on in your mind, they're always running and it slows everything down. And for me, I was not able to access my highest truth, like my spiritual connection, because I was so afraid of being wrong or that people would see me as a jerk that I hid from it. And by hiding from it, I became it. I became more of a jerk. Now think about, if somebody does something to you and it's painful, how much better do you feel if they actually make amends? They don't just say, "Oh, I'm sorry you felt that way." That's the worst apology ever, right? "I'm sorry you felt that way." Again, you're wrong again. But to actually make amends and to say, that must have been horrible for you. I acted in a way that was out of integrity, and I know that that was painful, and you deserve better. And from this point on, I will do better. And you're not even, for me, I'm not asking for forgiveness either, because it doesn't matter. I've done my part. I've cleared. I acknowledged what I did. I acknowledged like the actual wrong when I did this to you. And then I just try to imagine how it must have felt. And then even give them the opportunity. Did I leave anything out? Because usually I do, because I don't want to see all that. I don't want to see myself as causing harm. But when I do that, for me, it's an act of bravery and it honors myself and the other person. I feel so good. I feel so filled up and so proud of myself. Like it's almost like, okay, I'm an adult now. I can do this. Because when we hurt another person, there's like this little wounded part of us that wants love and acceptance and doesn't want, mommy and daddy to think we're bad. And if we admit that we're bad, then mommy and daddy aren't going to love us. And so we stay hidden, a lot of us. And what happens is we start to believe that if we admit that we're wrong or we did some harm, that we're bad people. And what happens is when we acknowledge the harm we do, there is the liberation of energy. It's like all the guilt and shame is like lifted off. It's like, it feels so good. You feel so light. So try it and be willing to mess it up because it's not going to be perfect. But if you come from the heart, you really cannot do it wrong. And don't have any expectations of the person saying, oh, thank you so much for acknowledging. Usually people don't know what to do with it. And they're like, yeah, you really did hurt me. You were an asshole. I mean, a lot of times people do things like that. You're like, whoa. So if you expect people to say, oh, you're forgiven, thank you. I mean, just go in with no expectations. So part of my transformational journey, this is really interesting, about right when I got separated from my husband, I had this boyfriend and he was high drama and always like threatening to leave me. And I was like, oh no, don't leave me. And I'd never been like that before. And when we broke up, I immediately started dating somebody who was super loving and supportive and fun and nice. But guess what? I came into that relationship being used to high drama. So I created it in the relationship. And this guy was like, what? What are you talking about? And I'm going to back up a little bit because I had these stories. I was constantly looking for validation from men that I was enough, that I was worthy, that I was lovable. Because I had this belief ever since I can remember, at least since probably I was a teenager, that in order for me to have any value as a woman, I must be in a relationship with a man. And yeah, we could talk about where it came from. I don't think it matters, but I had that belief. Even once I realized I had it and how ridiculous it was, I couldn't break it because it was linked to my survival. I literally thought if a man was not in love with me, I would shrivel up so small that I would cease to exist. That's how linked to my survival it was. So I hopped from this high drama relationship to a normal man. I won't say normal relationship because I was in it. And anytime he didn't want to see me on one of my nights, the nights where he didn't have his children, I made it mean that I wasn't lovable. I wasn't worthy. He didn't love me. There was something wrong with me. And I created all this drama and all this unrest. Well, you can guess what happened. Eventually, he got tired of this and left the relationship. And I don't think it was right away, but it was pretty soon after that I made a decision that shocked me, really. But I had experienced so much pain in that breakup that I was willing to do something really, really uncomfortable. And it was, remember, linked to my survival. So I made this declaration that I was not going to date for an entire year. Now, prior to that, I was a love addict. I hopped from relationship to relationship to relationship because I thought if I wasn't in a relationship, I was unlovable. So that makes sense. So, and I couldn't stand to be alone. I couldn't stand to be with myself. I was so afraid of what I was going to find under the surface. I thought, what if I am just this? What if there's nothing else there? What if there is no heart? What if there's no wisdom? What if there's, nothing good there? So I took this on 1 year and something super shocking happened. I started to enjoy my own company. I started to look forward to my alone time. I started to like myself. And by the end, I would say I started to love myself by the end of that year. And it's funny because I'd made the declaration I wouldn't date for a year. I thought after a year was up, I'm like, well, I guess I have to date now because I said 1 year. So I dated, but I didn't really want a relationship anymore. I'm like, I did not want to go back to that old being, way of being, that old identity. So I dated here and there, but I wasn't in a relationship for at least another year. So it was 2 years without a relationship. And in that period of time, I grew so much more because I actually put it into practice. It wasn't like, yes, I know I'm lovable and worthy without a man up here. It was, I know it. I know it in every cell of my body. I don't need to be in a relationship, especially I was choosing relationships that weren't that great and people that weren't treating me that well. And I would put up with things because I was so afraid of not being in a relationship. so I kind of went the other way. You can guess. That's what we do. It's like a pendulum. It swings. It's like I'll put up with a lot of crap. I put up with no crap. So I started to really, really value myself and enjoy, like little things. And I became more playful again. And I started noticing little things in life. So transformation is definitely a process. It can be long, it can be short. It depends on what kind of classroom you choose to create. You can choose to look at every projection you have, every judgment you have of somebody else and say, where is that me? That's a quick way to be on the transformation train. And if you have a group of people that can support you in that, they could say, oh, let me help you. If you can't think of a time you were judgmental, let me help you. I mean, we get to play with it. And we can learn our lessons kicking and screaming, or we can laugh through them. And I'm so grateful that I've actually learned to laugh at myself now. When I catch myself being right about anything, I'm like, oh my gosh, Karen, yep, there you go. You're the smartest person in the room. And my business mentor, James Wedmore, says, if you are the smartest person in the room, find a different room. It's like, if you have nothing to learn from anybody, why are you here? Why are you still on earth? So I invite you to play with transformation and start questioning all your beliefs, because beliefs are just thoughts you continue to think over and over and over until you no longer realize you're thinking them. They're just there under the surface. Yes, beliefs. And the same business mentor, James Wedmore, he says, right in the middle of the word belief is a little 3-letter word, lie, L-I-E, because they're lies. We believe them, but they're lies. If they were true, like capital T true, they would be true for every person alive, ever. Anybody who's ever existed, which would mean everybody would have the same results, because our beliefs create our experiences. They create who we are, how we show up, what we have, and what we do. And we don't take actions that are based on someone else's beliefs. We take actions based on our own beliefs. And whatever we believe is possible for us, we are more likely to behave and take actions in accordance with that. So in order for you to transform anything, I think it is 100% necessary to have integrity. Now, what do I mean by that? All right, I'm going to give you a silly example. It's not that silly. I met a guy on a dating app recently. Well, I didn't actually meet him. We had a phone call and we scheduled a date. And 1 minute before this date was to begin, I was there like 5 minutes early. 1 minute before it was to begin, I texted him, let me know when you get here. And he says, oh, I haven't left yet. and I'm like 20 minutes away. I'm like, would it not have been possible to text me that like 30, 40 minutes ago? Like seriously. So I sat with it for not very long, a few seconds, because integrity is one of my top values. That's how I live my life now. And I'm like, he's like, I'll still show up if you don't mind waiting for me. I'm like, actually, I do mind. I do mind. I deserve to be treated with respect. And I know you have a cell phone. You could have texted me. So thank you and good luck. Like, no, it's just a no. Like, and yeah, I could have stories like he's dismissing me and we haven't even met. Like, he doesn't know me. He can't dismiss me. So I decided not to stay in the story, but to stay like, no, that just doesn't work for me. And yeah, there were stories like, and I had judgments like he was people pleasing and whatever, but it doesn't matter. Integrity. When I give my word to someone or myself, I honor it. And that is who I choose to be with. I choose to be with someone who lives their life that way. Someone who respects people, someone who honors people, someone who honors himself. Because that's the thing, like he broke his word to himself and to me in order to make someone else happy. Well, that doesn't work. Because if you break your word to yourself, the next time you make an agreement, whether it's to yourself or someone else, your subconscious mind is there like, that's hilarious. Remember last time? You're so full of crap, you might as well just give up now. You're not going to do it. And it doesn't matter anyway. And then the voices and the stories and the justifications start coming in. Like it doesn't matter, or oh, there'll be another one, or whatever it is. It is imperative that you keep your word to yourself. So pay attention when you make an agreement to yourself or to somebody else. If you make a commitment or a declaration, you honor it. And if you cannot, you renegotiate ahead of time, not after. Like if you're going to be late, you call somebody ahead of time. Say, I cannot honor my commitment. I can be there at this time. Does that still work for you? If not, then let's reschedule or, something. Because when you are not honoring your word to yourself, you're making something else more important than your own integrity, more important than your own self-trust, more important than your self-confidence, more important than your self-love. And there's nothing more important than that. Nothing. Because you will have a foundation that's built on sand and it'll fall down. Everything you touch will be run through that filter. Like if you don't trust yourself, how can you create anything in life? You'll just get more of the same or go backward even. And I know you know what I'm talking about because we all have stories like this. We've all done it. And I love the example of me going to the freezer, getting the container of ice cream out with one spoon and saying, I'm just going to have how many spoons? Yeah, one. And I used to get my spoon, go sit on the couch, and I'd be like, oh, man, I really want another bite. So I go get another bite and I put it back in. This went on over and over until I get to the point I'm like, oh, I should have just had a bite. I wouldn't have eaten half the container then. I mean, a bowl, not a bite. So now when I want ice cream, even if I say to myself, because my tendency is like, I only want one bite, before I take the bite, I say, okay, Karen, how many bites do you really want? Do you really want just one? Will that satisfy you? And I feel into it. I'm like, probably not tonight. Tonight I need a scoop. Or tonight I need a bowl. Or sometimes it's, just one bite. And once I make that agreement, you better bet your ass I stick to it because I know the ripple effect. The ripple effect is I won't send the email. I won't do the live. I won't launch anything. Like I won't spend time in content creation. I just won't because it will be like, I can do it later. Like these little things, these little stories come in. So watch those agreements And when you catch yourself honoring your agreements, say, oh my gosh, celebrate yourself, like, woo, I did it. I am in integrity with my word. And when you start doing it over and over, you're going to notice other people who don't. And then you get to make a choice. You know, you could watch them and see their results and say, do I want their results or do I want my results? Because there's nothing like self-trust, nothing like it. Like when I say I'm going to do something, I know I'm going to do it. There's a quote too by one of the leadership trainers that I worked with. Her name is Lisa Kelman. And she would say, 100% is easy. Like 100% commitment is easy. 99% is a bitch. Because there's a back door and you're always like, well, do I do this or do I not? Whereas if you close that back door, you nail that sucker shut. You just do the thing. It doesn't matter if it's hard. You do it anyway because you said you would. And that is how I choose to live my life. Now, am I perfect at it? Of course not. Am I getting better? Yep. You bet you I am. And if I break an agreement, I clean it up. I clean it up and make amends. I don't hide from it anymore because it just creates so much unnecessary bleh. And I don't want to live in bleh. I want to live with an open heart, with love, with joy, in service. And I hope that you do too, because it is a much lighter and more fun way to go through life. I really appreciate you watching. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel. And if you would like any of my freebies, I have a guide right now, which is how to create self-confidence on video. Go to my website, KarenSeltz.com. I will see you right here next week. Thanks for watching. Mwah!